Darth Bane was a legendary Dark Lord who lived roughly 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Leading the Sith Order into a new age, he was pronounced by many as the Sithari, a prophesized hero of the dark side who would destroy the Sith Order, only to rebuild it stronger than before. Born on the poor and desolate Outer Rim planet of Apatros, he was named Dessel, though Hurst, his alcoholic, abusive father, would often call him Bane, referring to his son as the bane of his existence, blaming the boy for all his own failings. With Dessel's mother having died during his delivery, the boy was left to suffer the scorn and cruelty of his father and his father's friends for many years, none aware of young Dessel's powerful force sensitivity and his untapped potential. At age 16, Dessel became a miner for Outer Rim ore works like his father, working in hazardous and back-breaking conditions, mining cortosis ore for the Republic and other clients of the company. Though the work was difficult, it shaped the young man, who was already tall, into a large, muscular figure, with his natural force abilities protecting him from danger and strengthening his skills and stamina. Despite working to provide for himself, Hurst continued to abuse his son, and at the age of 18, Des at last had enough, standing up to his father and challenging his authority. As a result, the young man was beaten near to death, and as he lay in bed that night, enraged and suffering in pain, Dessel began to imagine the death of his father, picturing a hand squeezing his heart. In the morning, Hurst was dead, with Dessel unknowingly having killed his father through the use of raw and undeveloped force power. As the years went on, Dessel learned to stand up for himself against the other miners and focused his efforts on working as much as possible to pay off the ever-mounting debt owed to Outer Rim ore works. Yet as Dessel sought his freedom and thought about his future, many of his co-workers continued to hate him, a sentiment instilled in the miners by Hurst before his passing. And so it was that 5 years after the man's death, Gerd, an old friend of his deceased father, drunkenly attacked the man, hoping to jab out his eye. Yet Dessel received a forced premonition during the fight and was able to turn his head in time to bite off Gerd's thumb, defeating the drunken miner. Despite his claim of self-defense, Dessel was suspended for several days, and so went to the local cantina, where he could make some money gambling at the sabacc table to make up for what he would lose during his time out of work. Again, Dessel unknowingly used his force powers to help him win, both in gameplay and in manipulating his opponents. Insulting them and mocking their beliefs, his dark side aura even began to influence the spectators, and when he won the high-stakes final round against a young Republic ensign in a near miraculous way, the crowd was at the point of rioting. It was only when one of Dessel's only friends, Groshik, the owner of the cantina, intervened that the situation relaxed, kicking everyone except Dessel out of the bar and closing shop for the night. Yet the opponent Des had bested in sabacc would not forget what happened, and as Des made his way home, he was attacked by the Republic ensign, who pulled out a viroblade and attempted to kill him. Again, using the force to sense what would occur, he was able to stab the man with his own weapon. The ensign's 2 Republic friends who were watching ran, and Des knew they would report to their leaders and would return in force to arrest him for murder. Without witnesses, a self-defense claim would do him no good, and so unable to return home and unsure what to do, he returned to the cantina and sought help from his friend Groshik. The bar owner used his contacts to send Dessel on a Rhodian ship out of Apatros. Knowing he would be wanted by the Republic everywhere he went, Groshik arranged for him to join the Sith Army, which was currently fighting for the new Sith Order, also called the Brotherhood of Darkness, against the Jedi and Republic forces. Assigned to the Gloom Walkers, Dessel's innate force abilities made him an excellent soldier, rising to the rank of sergeant, earning the respect of his men, and leading them through a number of chaotic and savage battles. Yet while Des was their leader on the field, Lieutenant Ulabor was the ranking officer, and despite having little operational control, he often took credit for the Gloom Walkers' victories, receiving many commendations and awards for their success. However, during the Battle of Fasira, Lieutenant Ulabor ordered the Gloom Walkers on a suicide mission, simply because he was afraid to confront his Sith Lord Superior, explaining that a simple adjustment to their plan would save many lives. Des, unwilling to lead his soldiers into a slaughter, knocked Ulabor unconscious and took command of the unit. They instituted the revised plan and were successful in their mission. It would be during this battle that Dessel would temporarily be blinded by a flash grenade, only to gain force sight, able to continue firing his weapon, seeing targets through the force. When the triumphant Gloom Walkers returned to their camp, Lieutenant Ulabor was waiting with military police, who arrested the sergeant, taking him to be court-martialed, though many in the Gloom Walkers were ready to fight for him again, including a young sniper named Lucia, who began raising her weapon in his defense. Des shook his head, ordering them to allow his arrest, once again saving their lives. Dez was brought before the Sith Lord Kopez, who rather than punish the man, praised him for his many victories with the Gloom Walkers, and informed him that he was a Force sensitive. Lord Kopez, sensing the great potential in him, invited the former miner to enroll in the Sith Academy on the Sith homeworld of Korriban, where he might be trained in the ways of the dark side, so he too might one day join the Brotherhood of Darkness as a Sith Lord. Dez, shocked by the turn of events, saw his offer as a chance to start a new life, unhindered or haunted by the struggles of his past, and so agreed, following in the Sith tradition of choosing a new name for himself to begin his new life. Remembering his childhood and the cruelty of his father, he chose the name Bane and made his way to the Sith Academy.
A special thanks to all those who have contributed to CivilizationEx. You make these videos possible, and I am eternally grateful for your support. If you would like to help CivilizationEx and want a say in the future content of this channel, click on the Patreon link in the description box below, and pledge any amount you'd like on a monthly basis. Or if you would prefer to make a single donation, you can use the PayPal link, also in the description below. And please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.